Hello, Rob here again, and let's talk about some more games. This time it's the turn of Stygian, probably pronounced that wrong, Reign of the Old Ones by Cultic Games, out now on PC, Windows, Linux and other platforms. But before we get into the who's and whys and whats and who has, please do click that subscribe button and that notification bell. It really helps out smaller channels like us. Now onto this, there's two ways to approach this, as a point and click and as a RPG. But before any of that, it opens with a very, very robust character creation. There's different classifications of types of people you can be. This gameplay will alternate between a actor build and a soldier build, and each one entirely affects the way the game plays. My playthrough is of a actor, and it's a speechcraft, and the sex appeal of the character was through the roof. It allowed you to do things which, say, the soldier couldn't. So it has this inbuilt system of replayability, which I think is really, really satisfying. Because there's about 12, 13, maybe more different classifications, from investigator, paranormal, occult investigator, to soldier, to actor, to all sorts. Too many to really remember or to recall here, but they'll be playing on screen at some point through this video, so keep an eye out there. But as I was mentioning, there's two ways to approach this game, as a point and click and as an RPG. As a point and click, the sense of mystery is something which I think is really overdue, being in that sort of H.P. Lovecraft world, because H.P. Lovecraft he was a colourful, inventive man, let's just say that. He's informed a lot of modern horror, whilst none of modern horror really tackling him head on. So I think it's great that this is a game which really goes into the meat of it, rather than turn it into a stealth game or an action horror or something like this. It's just about really looking into how people are affected in a small place of Innsmouth, and you going in there and trying to find out something and trying to find this mysterious character who's infected your dreams. So the interactions with the people, again, goes back to the character creator. You can have different paths open up in front of you, given what sort of characteristics your character has as a dominant feature, and unfolding what's going on there, the interactions, and the side quests as well, which you can approach in all sorts of ways, again, because of the flexibility of the statistics system. I really liked it as an atmospheric piece as well, because frankly, if you're going to do something about H.P. Lovecraft, I don't think it has essence. It has an essence of visceral horror about it, but for me, H.P. Lovecraft is better as somebody sort of evoking a sense of atmosphere. This whole idea of fear as an epidemic and sanity as a thing which you can trade on really in this game, because you have interactions where you will have +1 for bravery, -3 for fear, that sort of thing. And when you're in the battle system, that's the sort of thing which you can lose by using certain techniques. But as a point and click, as something that you go around this world and that you play with the different factions, I think there's a great deal of credit that needs to be given to Stygian, or however it's pronounced. But as an RPG, it's something where you inevitably have to talk about the battle system. And the battle system is interesting in the sense of it has the idea that if you take certain attacks, or if you give off certain attacks, you will lose sanity, and if you lose sanity, that character, or that non-playable character, that person who accompanies you, is harder to control. That is something I like a great deal, because it does take that idea of it being a H.P. Lovecraft game and takes it on board on near enough every level that it could possibly take it on board. But at the same time, I don't think the combat's especially interesting. This sounds like really pernickety, but it's very ticks the boxes. It's a very ticky box sort of RPG system, where you move characters from one square to the other. Sort of as a strategy RPG, you attack enemies using a selection of, it's just, if you play an RPG, you know exactly what it is. Maybe I'm just fatigued of RPGs, so it's harsh taking it out on this game called X. So yeah, let's just assume that. But let's get to the core of the matter. This isn't a game which somebody who doesn't really care about Lovecraft would be interested in, because it doesn't really endear itself to that sort of wider spectrum. This is a RPG for horror fans, and outside of the upcoming one with the vampires, whose name completely escapes me, it was on the PC gaming show at this E3 just gone. Outside of that, outside of Vampire from Focus Home Entertainment, there isn't really a lot of pure horror RPGs of a certain standard. And this is coming at that sort of genre from an entirely independent level, from an entirely independent angle. So the look of it, it's quite painterly, but I don't know how you describe it. It's not 8-bit. It has that sort of sense of, this is what indie games look like. They're all built off the same sort of similar sort of game design engine, so they have a sort of uniformity of look. But the use of colour, the use of sound, the use of character elevates it beyond its engine. So that's really, really strong. But yeah, it's a horror RPG, and frankly, there isn't enough of them. And for something within that world, within that horror RPG, very limited world, for something to play it off H.P. Lovecraft and to get it right, importantly, all the references are there. It has the tone, it has the mood, it has all the touchstones that you'd expect for a Lovecraft game, whilst addressing it on its own level rather than trying to change it to suit games. This is a Lovecraft game, hook, line and sinker, and it's the one which I personally have been waiting for. I mean, yes, it is buggy. Yes, it's a combat system it's okay, but at the end of the day, the people who play this will be looking for a Lovecraft game, and on that level, I think it's a total success.